Hi, welcome everyone. Again, this is Saloon Sports with Ben and Walter, and we have certain new announcements to make about a different format of the show and things we are looking forward to doing in the near future. First off is we're breaking down shows into three separate shows to be shown Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, kind of in honor of the NFL practice schedule for when teams get up back on the field, prepare for the next week. And we are breaking the shows into approximately an hour each show to go through certain things in different segments. And we're introducing today's segments. We're going to be the game breakdown, where we're going to break down what the Cowboys did last week. And we're also going to go through our picks from the week before, and we're also going to have on the Wednesday show, the topic of discussion. And topic of discussion this week will be Ezekiel Elliot, and we'll be getting into that. And we will also be having our Facebook and Twitter for the show as well. That will be up in the very near future. And with all that, we can get started. And I'll throw it to Ben to talk about what he thought about the game on Sunday.
Well, I thought it was a good win overall. It's really tough to deal with those type of weather conditions, and we started off fairly slow, but then again, it came down to Zeke finding the running game or finding the big holes that the offensive line was willing to create, and that was the big difference. Obviously, we had a big momentum shift after the block kick, and we were able to get a touchdown at the end of the half. And after that, we just never looked back.
Yeah, that game was well, after the fumble. I mean, the weather conditions played a big role in that game because the first drive after the fumble, the Cowboys were up and down the field. Was like, wow, that looks like they were playing on air. That first touchdown drive, I was like, that was impressive. Haven't seen the offense do methodical domination. Like there weren't big over the top plays, but it was just like methodical touchdown. And that's of course after the fumble, Zeke on his first carry fumble. And I guess, but also the defense was having the defense made a very good play. Skandrick made a tackle on, I believe it was either Grant or Crowder, that on third down that held him to the field goal after the fumble, which was all you can ask for a defense in that situation when they have the ball on that with that field position. So I thought that was impressive. And the team they were struggling going into the second quarter, and the block punt by Tyrone Crawford and the fumble return almost for a touchdown by Leonard Skandrick with that turned the whole game around. And I think from then they scored 17 unanswered, the Cowboys. So it was I was most impressed with the defense. There was no doubt, like the cornerbacks aside from Skandrick had a horrific day. Like Skandrick was the only corner that decided to show up, in my opinion. Even Byron Jones had two blown coverages that stuck out. And only oddly enough, other than Skandrick, the only other secondary member that had a good game, I would say, was Jeff Heath, who he gets beat up a lot. Rhodes missed a big tackle, but I guess the underlining definitive thing of the game was the defensive line. Tyrone Crawford, four hurries during that game, sack, forced fumble. DeMarcus Lawrence with another sack. David Irving, the enigma of the Cowboys, with his laid back personality. He's like right now. He's just doing dominant things from the three technique. And he had 2 sacks. So the defensive line won that game. And yes, they were playing against a really banged up Redskins offensive line. But I mean, you can only play who's in front of you, and they've been doing it all year. As far as the pass rush, so you can't really say this was an aberration. So I thought the defense able to do what they did with the question marks surrounding them, as it was the most impressive take for me from that game.
Yeah, the defensive line definitely stepped up big time, especially in the third quarter when we started to break away a little bit. Like it was the pressure they got on Cousins in the weather conditions that really turned the tide completely. The offensive line, I think, was a bigger plus for me just because they have been up and down, and they're starting to turn the corner. I mean, Malik Collins on an island is a horrible offensive lineman, but working
Like,
together, they Lyle Collins, yes, my apologies. We have all five of them together. They were able to create holes for Zeke. And I mean, as a former offensive lineman, I guess I just pay a little more attention to that that group. But
yeah, it's like, yeah, the Lyle Collins had his worst game of the year. You got Ryan Kerrigan made him look bad, which is not exactly the worst thing in the world. Ryan Kerrigan is one of the most underrated pass rushers in the NFL.
oh, absolutely,
And Tyrone Crawford probably had his worst game of the year as well.
yeah.
But it's not like the outside edge rushers for that DC team are bad. So I mean, it's up and down there. You would expect Lyle to not get beaten as bad as he got several times, but I mean, I don't give him a pass for it. I'm just like, yeah, that's Ryan Kerrigan. He's really good, and Lyle, have a lot of learning to do at tackle in the NFL. But they held up in the run. They dominated him in the run game. Like there was just there were very few times where a running back was hit before he was 2 yards past the line of scrimmage. Like they blew them up. They blew up. They perfect technique, perfect getting to the perfect combo blocks, getting to the next level. Zone blocking schemes. They did what they did, and they were good at what they did. But one of the big things to take away from the game, Cole Beasley's concussion, where we still don't know if he's going to play this week. He's probably going through the protocol, so we'll see there. Definitely need him going forward, especially what we're going to talk about in the next segment. But I do think the offense did what they needed to do when the weather got bad. Is what you need to do. I mean, they did what they needed to do. There's not much you could ask for in the passing game. For some reason, the Redskins decided to pass a lot when they weren't down a lot. So it was a little bit run the ball. Like I don't. That's again. That's
But they don't have a running. That's the problem.
I mean, you can. I don't think that's really much of an excuse, but
Pass. I mean, especially with that offensive line, they don't have a running game per se. What they do have is Chris Thompson, who can catch the ball out of the backfield, and that's how they've had success throughout the entire season. So I guess they were under the assumption if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And except it just didn't work this time.
Yeah, Chris Thompson had, I believe, 8 catches, 76 yards, and 20 yards rushing. He didn't have a bad game, but it's just like when they decided wholesale, yeah, just the hell with the conditions. We're just going to keep throwing. I was like, oh, thank you. They had some drop balls. Ryan Grant specifically dropped. He beat Lewis pretty bad several times. He had a couple drops. There were a lot of drops from that team, man. Doxson and Pryor were absent. They ended up losing Reed and Vernon Davis, so it was like they don't have any pass catching tight ends. Their blocking tight end as well. I forgot his name, but
Niles Paul.
Yeah, Niles Paul. So it was just like I was a little bit confused by the play calling. I know you're paying that quarterback $21 million on the franchise tag, but against that pass rush who has done it all year, what were you expecting?
Rush defense is suspect at best. So
yeah, since that's kind of been the big thing. They moved Malik Collins to the one technique, and we'll get into that at some point. We can try to work it in tomorrow's show. Get a breakdown on the difference between 1-3 technique and all that stuff and all that talk. But they moved Maradona moved him over to one technique. So, and ever since then, and David Irving come in and play the 3, they've had better success at stopping the run. We can break it down why that is, but there's definitely been a difference there. Also with Lee and Hitchens playing behind the defensive line, really it comes down to Sean Lee being Sean Lee. That dude's amazing. He does not miss tackles. There were some tackles I saw him make in the game, and I was like, that's not going to get a lot of talk, but that tackle, stopping it for only 3 yards in an open field one-on-one, that's a huge play. Those
Yeah.
those kind of plays that people miss. And it's like that's a really big play. If you don't look at it as just from a fan standpoint, like that's a huge play. It's not going to get a lot of talk, but making that tackle is the difference between a big game and a mediocre game, and we can see that because on the last drive of the game, Xavier Rhodes, he's been heralded as a rookie sixth rounder. I keep forgetting him. He was a sixth. Cowboys moved up in the sixth, I believe, to get him, or fifth, one of them. And he missed the tackle on the last drive of the game that would have ended the game, and it ended up resulting into a first down for the Skins to give them the opportunity to tie the game, which was can't have that. So that to me is the big thing about tackling, and the Cowboys have had a problem tackling this year. It's getting better, but you just can't have safeties missing tackles like that when you have your hands on him. It wasn't an angle thing. It wasn't a sudden play. You saw him, you were on him, missed the tackle. Like, that kind of stuff is what drives me nuts. Especially since he's traditionally was looked at as a safety by the NFL and not as a slot DB. I mean that's a little bit nitpicky. But I thought the corners and did not play well. Besides outside of Scandrick, they got beat a lot. Lewis had his worst game, I think. Brown didn't play that well either. So they were benefited greatly by the outstanding pass rush by the front four.
Yeah, you make a great point. Another thing that really stuck out to me is one of our points from our previous episode, the kicking game. I think Mike Nugent came in and played fairly well from being cut recently during his last stint with the team. Made 4 or 5 field goals in the rain, and that was really the difference maker, especially on drives that stalled.
Yeah, he did. He played extremely well, and the funny story is that the DC team worked him out recently, and they decided to go with the kicker they went with, who ended up getting a field goal kick block, which you can't really always blame on the kicker, and then he missed an extra point. That was a little bit of poetic justice probably from Mike Nugent's standpoint. It's like, well, I missed a 49-yard one, but your guy got one block. You missed an extra point. So, so, I mean, that was, again, I thought Tyron Crawford got a lot of he's been getting a lot of criticism for his contract and his play. But when it's not just him playing on the inside of the three technique, we're seeing how good of a player he is. He's going up against arguably what most teams' best offensive lineman is, their left tackle, and is beating him week by week by week. And it's because all the attention isn't on him. The teams have got to compensate for, oh, Lawrence is over here. Oh, this Irving dude is playing ridiculous. We got to double team him on the inside. And Crawford's beating left tackles one-on-one consistently, or getting pressure, causing guys like Irving to get a sack or something. It's like it's guys playing well. I pointed that out. I even tweeted Brian Bros, like, hey, look at the tape on Crawford. He's doing some good work over there. So I'm really impressed with his play. Hope he keeps up. Irving, 5 sacks in 3 games is not what people expected after he was suspended for 4 games. That guy is out. I guess this has to go back to Will McClay and finding hidden gems. He was on the Chiefs. Yeah. On the Chiefs practice squad. Cowboys got him. It's like, who is this really tall, lanky? Is he a defensive end? Is he a interior player? Can he play 1? Can he play 3? Is he a right end, left end? They didn't know anything really what to do with him. He gets in here, and then he turns into this. He showed flashes last year. Then when he gets in this year, he's playing like the best. He's being as disruptive as Aaron Donald in his first 3 games, Matt. And that's a huge compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really coming in and playing phenomenally, especially for what we gave up to bring him here. Like, there's no question he's been a nice find.
Yeah, we didn't have he was just signed up for practice, but I didn't have to give the Chiefs anything. So that guy's good. I hope he stays in Dallas. Was there any other final thoughts you had about the game and what we should anything we think we should highlight on or point out from a tactical standpoint?
I'm not really positive that I'm that's sticking out with me, but if what we just need to need to start doing moving forward is just cut back on our penalties, because time and time again our drives stalled because we kept holding and holding, and we just can't have that, especially with. And I guess I'm not meaning for this to be a segue into once we lose them, we can't have those type of penalties and expect to win.
Yeah, I know a couple of those. One of the holding calls that on Tyrone Smith, they got the touchdown call back. That's been heavily talked about, holding penalties since his hands were inside, and they're saying that, well, if you can't block like that, you're not. Then how are you going to block in the NFL? That one's been disputed, but the other ones are kind of like, yeah, you probably can't do all that. I think I remember 4 distinct holding penalties. Well, Witten had 1, 2 from Smith, and another from Collins, which honestly probably should have held a bit more because he was getting annihilated multiple times by Ryan Kerrigan. I was like, okay, you need some help today, which is fine. If you have one guy struggling, you can help him. So yeah, I agree with you, and I guess that is a perfect segue into our topic of discussion segment of this week and on the show, which is not of any surprise to anyone, really. It's Ezekiel Elliot. His hearing in New York Second District Court came found back, and basically what happened is the suspension has now been reinstated for 6 games starting immediately. And a lot of Cowboys fans have been going crazy. What are we going to do? And of course, the Cowboys haters have been like, haha, you're not going another game, or say bye-bye to your playoffs. And I'm just like, no, that's not really set in stone. It's not being a homer or anything, because I definitely critique the team where it needs to be critiqued. Like Byron Jones, despite that touchdown on the game, he did not have a good game in coverage.
No.
That's not even nitpicking. That
won't be the right place at the right time. When that ball was pitifully thrown, he was there.
Yeah, I believe David Irving tipped that ball, and I was like, "Oh, look, easy."
Actually, yeah, you're right. It was a tip.
He was
ball.
like, "This is the kind of that's kind of what we were talking about last week with the easy interceptions. Like, oh, tip. Oh my God, this is so easy." It was like, yeah, you can get middle school players out there going to catch that ball. And hopefully. But yeah, going back to the Zeke, I mean, like, yeah, the Cowboys have Darren McFadden, who has been held as an inactive the entire season, probably for this reason. And a lot of fans are saying, well, Alfred Morris, let's just use him as the carry the load. I'm like, I don't really want to do that. But because from all the film I remember seeing, he hasn't taken heavy contact for about 2 months. Darren McFadden still has a burst. He can still get to the next level quickly. I guess his biggest thing is breaking tackles and leaning forward on contact, getting the dirty yards. Well, you might not need to ask him to do that. We got Rod Smith as well, a big back, built just like DeMarco Murray. He's not DeMarco Murray, obviously, but still, he can probably get some of the tough yards inside. And then you have Alfred Morris, who can also get some carries for you. So if the offensive line plays like it has in the past 2-3 games in the running game, or run blocking and taking care of business there, I honestly think the Cowboys can still run the ball extremely effectively, and it's not really going to hamper the offense that much.
No, I completely agree. There's no question that Zeke's a dynamic player, and obviously what separates him from other running backs such as Alfred Morris is just, like you mentioned earlier, just getting those extra yards, and also once you hit that hole, to hit it hard and break it off for a 60-yard touchdown. And Darren McFadden, he does bring that element to the running back core. Not to the level that Zeke has, but an adequate enough level to where we shouldn't miss too much on offense. Our offense should still run the same way. We're gonna run the ball, and then we're gonna bootleg with Dak, get him outside the pocket where he can find the open guy downfield and still move the ball. Like, I'm not too concerned about being able to score. That's not change.
Yeah, in Jason Garrett's press conferences, I listened to them all. he never really answers anything and doesn't really give any insight to anything. But for a fact, behind closed doors, the team, the coaches have been planning for this to happen. If they haven't,
Yes.
they're very ignorant. Like, because it's been around the team since training camp, being a training camp. They knew this was a possibility, so they probably have got some stuff stashed away. Like, if he gets suspended and it actually goes through, this is how we're going to handle it. They probably have read Darren McFadden in on it, because a couple of weeks ago there was reports that he was having a long conversation with Jerry Jones. There was no reports of him yelling or screaming, but they could tell it was kind of let's talk about what the F is going on here. Because Darren McFadden, if you've seen him talk or handle situations, dude's one of the utmost professional people you will find in football. Like, he just is that. He's a team player. He handles his business well. He's very professional. So I'm sure he's been read on, hey, this is what happens when if this happens, you're going to be up, that we're going to use you this way, expect this to happen, and don't worry about it. We're sorry that you're in a situation, because he has ties to Arkansas, and we all know about the Joneses Arkansas ties. So I think they planned this for this to happen. I think where the biggest thing you're going to see a difference is like third and fourth and the short, because that's kind of where Zeke was being used. Like, we've seen Garrett go for fourth and a long one a lot this year. So, like, yeah, we're going to run it. We've got all this resources on the offensive line. We have this big resource at running back who leans forward and gets the dirty yard. Run it, go, just go. We're not even thinking about it. Just run. We're going to run right down your throat. Try to stop us if you can. That's old 90s, 70s, 80s, and 70s football. Stop us if you can. We're running it right now. Go ahead. Stop. I mean, that's kind of the kind of physicality you want to have in the NFL. Like, it's kind of gone from college. And that's kind of a Thursday show talk. But yeah, we'll get into that. But yeah, I don't think. Yeah, is there something going to be missing? Sure. Are you going to turn a 20-yard, 20-yard game to a 60-yard touchdown? Sure, that element's probably going to be missing. But if McFadden gets in the open field and there's one defender there, he can make that person miss or run right by. He still has that kind of speed. We can make it work. The team can make it work. I don't think it's doomsday, especially with the Chiefs coming up, which we'll get into later this week as well. So I don't know. I'm not.
One more thing to add is that, like you said, we've known about it for a long time, and if they didn't think our current stable of running backs could get the job done, they would have gone out and tried to acquire somebody else to fill that void. They didn't do that. They had all the confidence in the world in what we have on the roster right now.
I think especially Rod Smith. He's been getting a bigger role in the offense, and you're actually seeing him become the third down running back. It hasn't been talked about at all, but Zeke the first couple of weeks was pretty much first, second, third. It gets third and long. Rod Smith's out there. So the team is showing confidence has been showing confidence in Rod Smith. And so I don't think they're that concerned. And as we get into tomorrow or trade, there was a running back a running back I liked coming out of college that was on the trading block who got traded for a fourth to a division team. So they must have all the confidence in the world in McFadden, Alfred Morris, and Rod Smith. So, and I honestly do as well. I still think with these three, you can still get 120 yards a game.
Yeah, there's no question.
Especially with Dak as well running, because that can still get you. He can still get you some yards as well. Team can still run for 120 yards. You can still move the chains. You can still get yourself in second, third, and short. It's not doomsday if the team plays well. Just, again, as you mentioned, stop holding. Don't do it. But I guess we can get into the transition of how do you think this does change the offensive scheme? Do you think it changes it at all? How do you think the team handles this? Or do you think the players have already been aware that this could happen and are just like, hey, we got other running backs. We can do this?
Yeah, I don't think the scheme's going to change too much, or I don't think the mindset's going to change too much as far as what we know we can do. We can run the ball on our big offensive line. That's going to be priority number one. I think what you will see more of is it's going to be tough without Beasley. Hopefully he clears concussion protocol, but this is when we're really going to need him to step into that person that he was last year. We're going to need those quick, short passes because without Zeke there, yeah, our running game's going to alter a little bit, but that's when you could probably get into the quick throws to extend the running game outside a little bit. And maybe this is where Switzer's going to come in and start to find his own little role in the offense. So having other guys step up in the absence of Zeke is going to be huge. That's one thing I'm looking forward to see what we can do.
And I agree with that completely. Beasley's had troubles because this year teams have basically said we're bracketing, double teaming Beasley and going one-on-one with Dez. So that's changed up things a little bit. I think if they do work some plays in where they just spread everything out and have everyone on the field, by everyone I mean Witten, Dez, Williams, you put Beasley and Switzer also in the slot. Can't really double team anyone in that case. So that's something they could do. They can manipulate format. I mean, they probably won't do that. They don't get too creative. It's still disappointing. You can manipulate formations or run a basic play just to give them something to look at. But I think they're going to try something new, whether it's Switzer getting some carries or something. I feel that coming. They almost have to.
Yeah, they ran a couple little handoffs or end arounds to Switch for this past game, if I'm not mistaken. And he's starting to be involved a little bit more. So I think that's just getting his feet wet for what's about to come.
Yeah, and I agree with that as well. Going forward, I mean, KC's this week, they just pretty much handled the Broncos, who have a tale of 3 seasons, I guess, or 4 seasons, because the Broncos have just – their defense is still good, but Trevor Siemian is struggling. Their offensive line is struggling. We've had a conversation about bad offensive lines in the game.
He's only good when he has a running game. Like if you look back to the game they played against us, C.J. Anderson was able to run the ball down our throats, and that allowed things to open up for Trevor Siemian to pass. He's better than just standing back in the pocket and trying to sling it 35, 40 times. That's just not his game. You're doomed to fail if that's what you're relying on Trevor Siemian to do. He needs a running game.
And I think that's where we're going to miss Zeke a bit for us on the field is against a team like the Chiefs. They have some issues at times on defense. I'm not sure. We'll look into before Friday, and like D Ford, I'm not sure if he was a weak injury or just that 1 week injury. But we have D Ford, you have Houston. They can get pressure, but in the back, aside from their all-pro cornerback, forgot his name. He had 2 interceptions in this game on Monday. Aside from him, they've had some struggles on the opposite side at corner. So, I mean, you can move the ball against them. The problem with that team is all that speed on offense. And Alex Smith decided to make a progress jump in his career in his 30s, which is not something you see often, especially at quarterback.
Well, that's what you get when you start your career in San Francisco and have so many offensive coordinators. It's like a revolving door of offensive coordinators. So being able to learn under Andy Reid, who is probably going to go down as one of the best offensive coaches of all time, it's easy to see how he can make that transition in Kansas City when you have that type of stability.
It took a few years, but Andy Reid, I realize a lot of Cowboys fans are going to probably be listening to this, but Andy Reid, former Eagles coach, this is why we're not homers here. We don't do that kind of stuff. We're not going to sit here and bash other teams for absolutely positively no reason. But Andy Reid is a great offensive coach.
You got to respect what he did.
I mean, years he had Donovan McNabb and tried to name the wide receivers that were on that team. He basically had Donovan McNabb, the tight end that was on for a couple years. I mean, that was the best they got there. That was really good. They got to the Super Bowl with Owens, but they had pass catching tight end and wide receivers who you didn't think are that dangerous. And he made that work. They had a running game back then with Deuce Staley, Brian Westbrook. Mostly those two during that time period. So yeah, they made it work. They had good defenses back then. Hugh Douglas coming off the edge. Jeremiah Trotter. I mean, yeah. So yeah, Andy Reid can coach up a team. There's no doubt about it. He makes quarterbacks. I mean, Nick Foles. He had Nick Foles have a Dak Prescott year when he was coaching. I'm like, wow, that's wow. So I mean, he can coach, and the team speed though. Like Kareem Hunt, ridiculously fast. Tyreek Hill, don't one-on-one, please no man coverage against Tyreek Hill with no safety world that way. Just please don't. No corner on this team is gonna stay with them. And then they have Kelsey, one of the best pass catching tight ends in the NFL, and he probably is a better blocker than some would think. He's not Gronk. He's not. I mean, Gronk was just a bad blocker at tight end. It's definitely Jordan Reed is pretty much a wide receiver. Don't ask him to block anybody. Don't even bother trying. So I mean, they have weapons on offense. It's just you have to figure out a way to take something away.
We're gonna have to use the formula we had last year, which was control the time of possession and keep their offense off the field. That's got to be our game plan moving forward.
Yeah, that's why it's so difficult with. It might not. I mean, it's going to take a good coaching effort and having the team believe they can do this. With Zeke not there, they don't have the name that people expect to be able to do it. But this defense does have some problems, the KC problems. So even if Zeke is gone and they're still trying to get the appeal and everything, which probably is not going to go this year, if they can still run with McFadden, Morris, Smith, if they can get these guys going, the big thing is please no fumbles. That's the big thing coming. I know Zeke had one last year. But if they can get, if those three combined can get 100 yards and Dak gets another 20, 30, I'll take it. I mean, I will take that if they can still get third and fourth and short. I will take that because that's all you really need with this team is getting that opens up the passing game. So it'll be a little bit more difficult and by committee probably, but still you can still get that even without Zeke. Yeah, the big plays probably aren't going to come as easy, but this week against last week in DC, there wasn't really any big runs. It was like a 16-yard run. It was a bunch of 4 or 5 yard carries because the offensive line was opening up holes. If the offensive line still does that, you can still control the ball and you can still get things open up. So I don't know. There's a lot going into this, and Jerry Jones said he wasn't happy. He threw some really he had some shade for the commissioner right now. Like it was a backhanded compliment followed by some shade. He basically like, well, Rodgers made some decisions that you'll probably have to take back, like the Ray Rice thing. So now he's overcompensating right now for the Ray Rice situation. And I'm like, Jerry, don't. I mean, I'm like, yeah, you're mad. Evidently, somebody told him before the season that Zeke wasn't going to get suspended. That I thought was like, whoever told you that, you probably shouldn't have listened to when you're looking at what the NFL has done to change the personal conduct policy since that Ray Rice incident, which was horrific. And yes, the NFL should have never did what they did. That was that could be a topic for another show. But so I just think it's kind of weird. He's critiquing Roger Goodell now when there's certain other things going on that he's pretty much not even willing to have a conversation about. Was like, hey, you can talk to Goodell in some different capacity with players around if you really want to have that conversation. Don't take that to the media. That probably a lot of Cowboys fans are mad at Goodell, and I'm like, I don't know. I'll let you talk about it from this. Like, do you think the NFL handled this properly, or do you think they should have done something different? Do you think it should have been faster process, or What are your comments on
Well,
that?
yeah, obviously the process should have been a lot faster. I mean, they definitely waited till after Jerry was enshrined in the Hall of Fame to slap us with a suspension. Then again, also, I don't see how they can play judge, jury, and prosecutor when the criminal justice system wouldn't pursue this case. But that being said, when there's smoke, there's usually fires. So I don't want to come out and justify anything Zeke may or may not have done. But the way the NFL handled it, it could have been handled a lot better, obviously. And mainly, one thing that always gets me is they had their special investigator going into it who came back and told Goodell that they shouldn't pursue a suspension because of lack of evidence or lack of good evidence. And Goodell decided to forgo that and slap us with a 6-game suspension, anyways.
Yeah, and that's kind of.
But all in all, I'd like to see this wrapped up as soon as possible and just move forward. But
Yeah, let's get into the minutia of the court proceedings that have been going on for the past 8 weeks now. And it gets down into the fairness. I mean, that's kind of what the ruling was, down to the fairness of the NFL's investigation and ruling, which is getting, they're not even really talking about guilt or innocence and haven't been for quite some time. So it's been debated about the fairness of the decision made. And I agree with you. If anyone wants to go read through what's been said from both sides, there was some kind of disturbing things that came from the NFLPA and Zeke's legal team that I don't really want to go into after it first happened, trying to discredit individuals that didn't feel right. So when you get into it, it's like it just doesn't feel right. But then again, the NFL process, it took them 13 months. I'm like, that's a long time. I mean, if anything, they could have came back with this at the beginning of training camp and be like, yeah, you're going to be suspended 6 games. For them to wait basically until week 1, it's like, okay, that took an absurd amount of time. I understand wanting to get it right. I don't even really put too much weight into the decision in Ohio. Ezekiel Elliot went to Ohio State. I'm going to just bring those two things up and leave it alone. So it's, I mean, yeah, it's, yeah, and also one of the big things in the court procedures have been this has been collectively bargained. The NFL has a union, which unfortunately not everyone in the country is privy to. They have a union. They collectively bargained this, that the commissioner can serve as judge, jury, and executioner in this way. That's something they're probably going to fight for in the next collective bargaining agreement. But this is literally what they agreed to in the last CBA negotiations. So legally, what can you say that you didn't want your CBA to be the CBA and you still negotiated and said okay to? I mean, I don't see legally where NFLPA has grounded there. That's kind of what happened with the Brady situation as well as the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's like for legally, it's like you agreed to it. You did agree to it. You were under no duress or false pretenses. It's clearly stated right there that this is the process. So to be fair, it's like I don't know where that's going to go.
It is what it is then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's. I mean, yeah. I mean, we can sit here and talk about. I mean, there was a lot of reports coming out from, I'll just say, a Bleacher Report that said that, oh, I'm getting word that he won't be suspended, and the suspension comes down. There's always a lot of misinformation coming out about about this.
Like you said, she said stuff.
And it's just like people need to stop doing that for clicks. And I know exactly why certain places like Bleacher Report will go out and say that on Twitter to get some clicks, some likes, retweets, follows to get their social media standing up. But stop it. Like stop. Like I work in journalism. I do a lot of work in journalism, so I'm familiar with the process, and I have. In sports journalism, it's different, but there still should be an ethical process. Honestly, sports journalism should be a lot like news journalism, political journalism, where it's held to that standard. It is not. There's a huge difference, and you can get away with that at sports journalism. And a lot of people do that, even certain people that work for ESPN that do things that are, if you were to do this in a different realm of journalism, you would have some pushback. You would have a lot of pushback in most cases. So it's just stop it. I mean, when people make those claims, it's like, I know what you're doing. You say you have a source, but you work for Bleacher Report. Who possibly could be your source that would be in the second court and privy to that judge's mindset on this? Like, you were just throwing something up and saying, well, I have a 50% chance of being right. I'll just say it. That's where I really think that comes down to, and that's kind of what stuff annoys me about this, because either way, it goes further than this situation goes further than sports, and we have to consider that there is another side to this than just the Zeke side. So
yeah, that's true.
It bothers me a bit how it's been approached.
That's a very valid point.
And so I guess that's kind of the Ezekiel Elliot situation. And since we do still have some time left, we can go into some more topics of the discussion and a little bit lighter after that. And it's kind of what we were talking about, like tribalism from NFL fans, excessive tribalism from NFL fans, basically, especially directed towards the Cowboys. And I had a little conversation with I'll just say a Saints fan who obviously did not watch the Cowboys Redskins game, because they say, oh, you only beat Redskins and you needed a last second intercept touchdowns. Like, for one, it's a division game. Those mean something. When you have that much intel on opponent, it means quite a bit, no matter what division you're in. Like, certain teams, like the Bills and Jets, play the Patriots well, and they shouldn't for the most part. So, I mean, that means something. Then the weather conditions mean something. So, I mean, like, and also the NFL is really a tough league. Like, it's really hard to win games in the NFL. No team, I don't believe there's any team in the NFL that's legitimately 2 touchdowns better, that's more than 2 touchdowns better than another team. You can get things where, talent-wise anyway, coaching-wise is where you get stuff like the Browns. And so I just want to get your opinions on when you hear things like that, and obviously you have conversations where someone's just trashing somebody, another team, for no real valid reason, and obviously they don't watch film, they didn't watch the game, they just listen to talking heads, and a lot of talking heads want to take shots at the Cowboys. The only quote unquote non-Cowboys fan in the media that's really kind of interesting is Shannon Sharp, because he's on a show with Skip Bayless, a huge Cowboys fan, and they have polite little jabs at each other about the Cowboys and stuff like that. And that's in good fun and good nature, but this whole tribalistic Cowboys suck, always suck, your fans do this, your fans do that. This is going to be ignorant fans that don't pay a lot of attention to the team their fans for. I mean, Brian brought us the scout for the Dallas Cowboys that does all these things, was literally called lazy on Twitter during the game by a fan who was upset that listing the inactives brought us used numbers. And I had gotten a conversation with the guy as well. I was just like, if you don't know the numbers, I can understand not knowing every single number, but if you don't know them, it literally takes you 5 to 10 seconds to Google Cowboys number, and it's going to pop up. And he said, as a customer, I shouldn't have to do that. And I was like, maybe you're perhaps the lazy one, because that's literally the most entitled thing I've ever heard in my life. It was like, I can't be bothered to do 5 seconds of research to find this information. He should present it to me. He's like, how did you get through high school or college? But I mean, like, stuff like that. He even talked about it on the show yesterday. I was like, there's going to be not intelligent, bright fans, no matter what you're fan of the team. So what is your take and opinion on stuff like that?
Well, I mean, the nature of sports is you pick your team and you basically just want to talk shit about everybody who's not your team. And, well, over the past, at least since the 90s, the Cowboys, or probably even before that, the 70s, the Cowboys have been America's team, which that star might as well be a target on us. Like, everybody looks to us, looks to the franchise, and more often than not, they want their franchise to have the notoriety that ours has. And especially after the fall of Troy and the triplets, they had that 8-year lull where they could just talk crap about the Cowboys, and just because we had absolutely nothing. And then coming up with Romo, how Romo seemed to make all those mistakes leading the game, just added more fuel to the fire. And the more publicity we get, whether good or bad, they just love to hate on it.
And that's the thing, the stereotypes about Tony Romo, which honestly almost all stereotypes are basically made up of just BS, was that he chokes in the fourth quarter. I believe he still has the highest quarterback rating of all time in the fourth quarter. Like, that's the whole entire Tony Romo narrative is ridiculous. If he had played for any other team in the NFL, he would have been like, this guy is amazing. He was undrafted. He had this career. He came up as not expected to make a team. Then he made a team. Then he get inserted into the middle of the season, turn around this franchise for the next over decade, and didn't have a running back for most of his career, had a bad offensive line a lot of his career, didn't have a defense a lot of his career, and he still put up these numbers and made this team competitive when he wasn't injured. That would have been the national narrative about Tony Romo if he had been a Cleveland Brown, Charger, or now in Los Angeles. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. I'm a Cowboys fan. I have nothing incredibly negative to say about the Eagles, the Giants, the Redskins, other than that their nicknames Redskins. I don't have anything negative to say about those teams. I don't care. Like it's like yeah, we're gonna play you. I'm gonna judge your team. I've done scouting. I'm gonna judge your team honestly as I evaluate them as I see. But other than that, it's just like whatever. I have some problems with some of the things that Patriots have said and some of the cheating, but I'm not gonna go out of the way on social media just to be like, screw the Patriots, they suck. All Patriots fans are dumb. Like, what does that achieve? How does that make you feel any better about yourself? I mean, that's to me is like that's going too far.
Well, yeah, most of that is to make themselves feel better about themselves.
I mean, yeah, the Saints are 5-2. They just beat the Bears with Mitch Trubisky. Is like, okay, that you should. I mean, like, you should. Like, you just should. Like, I don't see the Bears winning too many games with Mitch Trubisky right now as quarterback. If they wanted to win some games, with Glennon, they might have won 6 games this year. They have 3 wins. They might have won 8, maybe. But with Trubisky,
don't forget the first couple games of the season, the Bears are right there against the Packers and the Falcons, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so
division.
So coming from a Saints fans, like your last 2 games I haven't watched them, but there were close games against teams you probably shouldn't have been close games in, and your defense still suspects. Like you should worry about the NFC South because the Panthers are still there. They are struggling with all their problems. The Falcons they miss Kyle Shanahan a lot. that team is not the same on offense. So. I mean, as a Cowboys fan, I hope that keeps up when the Cowboys play them because that could be a game they can win, even without Zeke.
With all their problems, they still have a lot of talent on that team. They could easily just turn it on at the blink of an eye. It just hasn't happened.
So, yeah, that's just the thing where we see just people attack the Cowboys and other teams. So it's just a little strange there, I guess.
I mean, for the most part, it's a willing ignorance to just attack another team without actually knowing what they do, what they bring to the table.
Yeah, I agree. Because when you watch a Cowboys game, the way the team is built, they're not really built to beat teams by 3 touchdowns. They're a run-first, ball control offense. And that eats away time of possession and has long drives. And a fair critique of the Cowboys is, they don't have the defense to match the offense getting there. If the secondary plays well, it's getting there with the pass rush that's coming. So they're not really gonna beat teams by 3 touchdowns. That's just not. They don't have an offense. That's the Patriots. We're just gonna throw. Oh, we're gonna run every run every 10 plays just to show that we know how to do it. I mean, it's not, yeah, like the Redskins, they do that. That's their offense. They can beat someone like that. So it's like, yeah, the team's not built like that. So it's like when you say, oh, it was a close game, and the national narrative before the 49ers game was, oh, Cowboys need to win this game. They might lose. The 49ers have been tight with every single opponent. Cowboys beat them by 30. Why is Cowboys getting credit for beating the team by 30 that had no wins? Like, I guess I'm really big on the hypocrisy. Stop it. And if you don't watch games, don't watch film, why are you being that aggressively, like you said, ignorant? Where people that are anywhere have broke down film is just like, you clearly have no idea what you're talking about. Like that's always in the back of my head. Is like you clearly have no fucking clue. Like it's just it's like you have no idea. So I don't know, when you just aggressively go after someone and saying stuff like that, it's a game, supposed to be fun, supposed to be a relief from our lives. Enjoy it. Why are you taking it and making it into something where you're acting like you want to pull out a weapon and attack somebody? I don't get it. And yeah, there's some Cowboys fans like that as well. So I'm not going to say Cowboys fans are perfect. There are definitely some Cowboys fans that's like, again, the guy who brought us the scout, who's up at 7 o'clock in the morning every day watching film and gives you all the information that you can learn from, calling him lazy because he says the numbers and expects that a Cowboys fan who's a diehard fan would know the numbers. I mean, that is not an unrealistic expectation. If you don't know all the numbers, 5-10 seconds, look them up.
No, it certainly isn't. Sorry.
I thought Ben was about to show us his 40-yard dash again. But yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's just like that kind of stuff just gets to me, and it's just like, yeah, let's have some fun, let's have some honest conversation, or just make yourself feel better through healthy ways that don't make you look ridiculous. So yeah, that's pretty much everything we have for this show. Do you have anything else that you wanted to say before we wrap things up?
No, I thought we covered everything that we intended to this episode. I'm just looking forward to getting into this whole trade deadline tomorrow.
Yeah, we're pretty much have about 7 minutes, but yeah, we can wrap this up, and when we will definitely be back tomorrow to talk about the injury report coming out of practice, and yeah, there's an inside personnel segment where we go through and talk about personnel issues where we were going to get into scouting this week, but with all these trades, which at the deadline, which mirrored MLB trade deadline moves, is like, okay, unexpected. We got to get into all of that. I guess yeah, but the time we have left, but we can go through the rundown for the new. Oh yeah, we forgot to do the picks from last week. So yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, finish up the picks.
Yeah, we both got the Minnesota game correct, which I thought was obviously, but was a little closer than I thought. Buffalo beat Oakland. I took Buffalo. You beat Oakland. Buffalo is now 5-2. One of the bigger surprises of the year so far, in my opinion. And Cincinnati beat Indiana and the Colts. I don't remember the score of that game, but I think it was somewhat close. Two struggling teams. Jacoby Brissett, I believe he had an okay game there. So so far. And the Chargers lost to New England. So you had New England, I had the Chargers. That was a close game. I heard there was some pretty questionable calls in that game. But it was 13-21 game. And Chicago versus New Orleans, we both had New Orleans. No shock there. Atlanta against the Jets. I had the Jets. You picked Atlanta. Close game. Atlanta pulls that one out. San Francisco versus Philly. We both wanted San Francisco to win, but we both picked Philly. Philly won that one pretty easily, which probably ended up into the trade that happened. We'll get to tomorrow. Carolina versus Tampa Bay. We both picked Tampa Bay. Now, Carolina won that game, correct? Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I guess Jameis Winston is just not turning the corner like everybody thought he would. Like he's actually regressing as a quarterback, it seems.
Yeah, they're 2-5.
Weapons that are supposed to help them out are just not showing up.
Yeah, they have a lot of talent on offense. I took some flack for saying I don't think Jameson Winston.
And defense.
I took some flack for saying I don't think Jameson Winston is going to live up to that draft status. He doesn't have.
Oh no, absolutely not. But I thought he'd be an adequate quarterback.
He's got some personality issues, leadership issues, and I thought he wasn't as accurate enough as he needed to be. And yeah, Tampa Bay is 2-5. That's probably another big surprise. So yeah, we both missed that one. Houston against Seattle. I picked Seattle. You picked Houston. That was probably the game. Well, if you like offense, that was the game of the week. There was no demons to be found there.
I was watching that at the same time as the Cowboys game. That was a crazy one.
Deshaun Watson, he's getting a lot of credit for that game, but he threw 3 interceptions. So I'm like, why? I didn't see the game at all. So I'm like, people are saying, oh, he had 4 touchdowns, and he had 3 interceptions. Like, mention that on national media. Dallas versus Washington, we both put Dallas, and Dallas did thankfully win. Pittsburgh versus Detroit, we both picked Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh won. The Lions do not have any semblance of a running game whatsoever. They don't even bother trying. Denver versus KC. KC won. I thought the game was going to be a little bit closer than what it was, or more competitive. And yeah, there were all the games. So did we break even? Does that sound like we broke even?
By my count, I went 9-3.
I did not count mine. So let's see. Hold on. I said Minnesota. All right, let's see the ones I got right. Minnesota, Buffalo, Cincinnati, New Orleans. So that's 4, right? 1, 2. Probably should do this in pre-production, but whatever. Still, this is good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, we both went 9-3. Oh, there you go. So yeah, we not bad. That's pretty good. Making educational guesses at games. There's some iffy ones there. I still think the Chargers should have won that game. I'm not sure how the Patriots are penciling together that defense. That was just ridiculously horrific the first 4 weeks. But it's the Patriots. They might have someone play sheet again or something. So yeah, I guess that is that's what that's our weekly picks. We'll do that every Friday and give you our guesses for picks. And what we will do to finish up with the time that we have left is go through the breakdown of the week, because as you saw on this show, we have the game breakdown, a topic of discussion. Our Thursday show is Inside Personnel, so it's all the entire show is dedicated to personnel things. We're going to break it down into college draft talk. And this week we're going to also focus on the trade deadline moves. And our Friday show is going to be the game preview, Cowboys game, and small talk, where we just go back and forth talking about whatever comes up in the realm of sports and the NFL. And this is the way our schedule is going to work until baseball season next year, where we will get into baseball things as well. So that's pretty much all that we have. And anything you wanted to say in closing?
No. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Oh, and also we're going to have our social media stuff up as well this week. So yeah, everyone, again, thanks for listening, and we're looking forward to giving you more Saloon Sports as the weeks go on.